This video is going to explain everything you need to know to get started with MainStage in under 10 minutes. Okay, hang on just a second. You've probably already noticed, but this video is not less than 10 minutes long. This is VoiceOver David here, coming to you to explain that we tried really hard to get the runtime down as low as possible, but there was really important information that we just could not cut. We wanted to make sure you knew everything you needed to know to have a solid understanding of how to get set up in MainStage, so it wouldn't be as comprehensive as it is. So you can use the timestamps in the description to jump to each topic. Now, back to the video. Now, MainStage might seem complicated to you. Maybe you're thinking about trying to use it for your church worship team, but it doesn't have to be difficult. In this video, we're going to outline all the things that you need to consider to get started and make great progress towards an awesome MainStage worship keys rig. Let's start off by talking about the hardware you need to have to set up a reliable MainStage rig. And the good news is that it's really simple. You only need 3 main components to be able to set up a reliable and successful MainStage keys rig. The first component is a computer. And the good news is there's never been more computers than there are now on the market that are up to the task of running MainStage. It has to be a Mac computer, and any of the new Apple Silicon-based Macs are going to be powerful enough to run MainStage well for you on stage. The MacBook Air with the M1 chip is a great value option if you're on a tight budget. Now, if you already have a Mac computer, there's a pretty good chance it's already powerful enough to run MainStage, so don't rush out and buy the shiny new computer. Try the computer that you have, download MainStage, give it a go. Odds are that you're going to be in a good spot if it was released within the last 5 or 6 years. Once you've got the computer you're going to use, just navigate to the App Store and purchase MainStage 3. After it's installed, go ahead and open it up. The first time you open it, you're going to be asked to download the factory sound library. I recommend going ahead and downloading all of the factory content. You can always remove some if you find that you don't need it later, but it's a good idea to see everything that comes with MainStage right off the bat, give you lots of options to explore. Okay, now that you've got your computer lined up, let's talk about the keyboard that you need. The great news here is that you could almost definitely use the existing keyboard that's already on stage at church. Most modern keyboards can connect to a computer over a USB cable, or if they don't have a USB port, they most definitely have a MIDI port on the back. So all you need is a really simple adapter cable like this one. It's MIDI on one side and USB on the other. These are really affordable. We'll put a link in the description to the adapter cable that we recommend. But all you really need to know here is that the keyboard isn't going to send audio to your computer. It's just going to send MIDI data, which is really simple data about what notes you're pressing, for how long, and at what intensity. Once you've got your MIDI keyboard connected to your computer, you just have to figure out how you're getting the audio from your computer to the soundboard. Now, you're not going to use the outputs on the back of your keyboard for this anymore. You actually need to get the audio out of your computer. The simplest and most affordable way to get started with this is just to use the headphone jack on your Mac. We'll put a link in the description to a simple splitter cable. You just plug that into the jack and then run the cables to your soundboard, just like you'd connect any other instrument. We recommend starting this way because it's very, very inexpensive, under $10. Long term, some folks find that they would like to rather use a dedicated USB audio interface to get the audio from their computer to the soundboard. Something like this that has dedicated high-quality jacks on the back. Some folks feel that this is more reliable. There's some other reasons that you might consider using a dedicated audio interface over the headphone jack as well. But if you're just getting started, know that either option is fine, and you might find long-term that a USB audio interface is the best choice. Let's go ahead and open your first concert. You'll probably be prompted by MainStage to open up the Keyboard Quick Start Concert. That's a great place to start because it just gives you an idea of all that MainStage can do from a sound perspective. So you've got a wide variety of different sounds, and you can browse through them over here in the patch list. You can use your up and down arrow keys, or you can just click on any patch to select it. After you've spent a little time trying out these sounds, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and exit out of the Quick Start Concert. And then after that, go down to Keyboards here, and choose the Keyboard Minimalist Concert. This is what I recommend you start with once you're actually ready to start building something for yourself in MainStage, because there's a lot less existing programming going on. It's sort of a clean slate to start from. MainStage has 3 modes, each with a particular function. Layout mode allows you to connect your MIDI hardware to the on-screen workspace, which is here, called the layout. You can customize the layout with controls in the Screen Controls palette here at the bottom of the screen. So we could drag in a vertical fader like this, we could resize it, change the color, and we could assign it to our hardware. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to click on this fader, then I'll click Assign in the Screen Control Inspector on the left side of the screen. Then I'm going to move a physical fader on my Korg Nano Control 2, which is a great MIDI controller that I like to use. And as I make that movement of the physical control, MainStage is going to listen and learn that assignment. So you can see now the MIDI port is actually set to my Nano Control 2. And when I move that physical control, anytime now it's going to be linked. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process. We're going to add a round knob. I'm going to make it a little smaller so it's got some room. We'll make that orange as well. Go ahead and assign this in the same way to a knob on my Nano Control 2. So there's all sorts of things you can do in layout mode. You can click on something to resize it. You can group controls together to move them all at once. I'm going to go ahead and delete these displays up here, give myself a little bit more room. In edit mode, this is where you're going to prepare the sounds that you'll use. All of your sounds are stored within what's called a patch, and you can have multiple patches in your patch list. All of your patches together make up your concert. So you can see Untitled Concert's what we're working in right now, and we have a single patch, the classic electric piano. Inside of patches, you'll find channel strips, which you can view on the right side of the screen here. You can show and hide channel strips via this toggle. Every channel strip can contain MIDI effects, one instrument plugin. You can see the variety of options available from this list here, audio effects, bus sends, an output, panning, and then the channel strip volume fader, which allows you to adjust the volume of that sound. Now, if I wanted to, most of the controls you're used to as a Mac user are going to work inside of MainStage. So I can hit Command-C with this patch selected to copy, and then Command-V to paste. And I could rename this by double-clicking and then typing whatever I'd like, something like synth. Now, if I wanted to, I could actually click on this instrument plugin and choose a different plugin like Alchemy, which is one of MainStage's synth plugins. But there's also a huge library of ready-to-play sounds that I can browse. To do this, I just click on the channel strip, and then the inspector at the bottom of the screen reveals the Instrument Channel Strip Inspector. It's important to say here that the inspector is a really important tool to get used to when you're working in edit mode. This is a contextual menu, meaning what's displayed here will change based on what you've selected on screen. So if I click a channel strip, I see the channel strip inspector. If I click a patch, then I see patch settings. If I click an on-screen workspace item, then I see the screen control inspector. So the inspector down here is really powerful. You got to get comfortable using it so that you can make adjustments to whatever you've selected. You can show and hide the inspector via this toggle option here. Now, I'm going to click on this channel strip to reveal the Instrument Channel Strip Inspector. Then I can view MainStage's large library of built-in channel strip presets. So I could go to Synthesizer, then choose Brass, and click Analog Horns to load this channel strip. You'll see that the channel strip immediately responded, loading up the instrument plugin, the audio effects, and the bus sends stored in that preset. So now that I've got a more specific sound in here, I could change the name again and make it say Analog Horns. I could go back to this electric piano and then change to Analog Horns. And in the real world, this is the basic performance functionality of MainStage. You can have a variety of patches, each with their own unique sounds, their unique MIDI and audio programming, and then you can change between them freely at will during a live performance. So they're all in your set list, you put the sounds where you need them to be, and then when it's time to perform, you can click on Perform Mode, hide the channel strips, hide the inspector, and just see this nice big workspace on screen that you can customize. This workspace isn't really functional right now because there's not much going on, so let's go ahead and give this fader and this knob something to do. So I'm going to hit the X or just the escape key on my keyboard to go back to edit mode, and we're going to make a mapping between this fader and a parameter that we'd like to have control of in the moment during a live performance. This process is pretty much the same as assigning hardware, which you'll remember we did in layout mode. In edit mode, you just click an on-screen control in the workspace, choose Map Parameter, and then click whatever channel strip parameter you'd like to map to that workspace control. So I'm going to click the volume fader. Now I'm going to click map parameter again so I don't accidentally change the mapping. And when I move the physical control on my Nano Control 2, you can see the workspace control is responding and the channel strip volume fader is being adjusted. So now when I go to perform mode, I'm actually controlling the volume of the electric piano via that fader, which is really useful to be able to take control and make those adjustments during performance. Now in the same way, let's give this knob something to do. I'm going to add an audio effect. So I'm going to click an empty slot, go down to delay, and choose tape delay. This is what that sounds like. So I've got a nice quarter note delay, and of course I could make any changes I wanted to within this plugin. What I want to do now is be able to control the prominence or the wet amount of this delay during a live performance. So with this knob selected here, I'm going to click map parameter again, and then I'm going to click on the wet amount. Now I can set the saved value to be whatever I'd like. So let's say I want it to start off pretty subtle, and then I also don't want to be able to crank it up all the way to 100 because that's probably not useful for live performance. So I'm going to set the max range to just be 40%. So now I can move that physical knob on my hardware. The workspace control responds, and that's mapped within the plugin so you can see that wet percentage increasing and decreasing. So no delay, 40% delay, and everywhere in between. And I've got control over the volume of this sound. Now the really cool thing is those mappings are specific to this patch because this channel strip is specific to this patch. So if I go to the analog horns patch, those mappings don't persist because they're made uniquely to each patch. So here I could make entirely different mappings to an entirely different effect. So if I wanted to add a reverb effect to this knob, I could go and load in silver verb, and then I could map the amount of wet to take control over this reverb. Now, I've got a totally unique customized performance tool that's specific to what I need within that patch, which is really cool. So you can also add multiple channel strips to the same patch. So let's say that I wanted to go ahead and add another channel strip. I'd simply hit the plus icon here, choose software instrument. Now I've got a default empty channel strip here. Again, I could use the inspector to browse all of the channel strips that are a part of MainStage. So I could grab a string sound here. That's loaded in. Or if I wanted to, I could create a channel strip from scratch. You can also copy and paste channel strips between patches. So if I'd like to, I can select this channel strip, Command-C to copy. Then we're going to just paste it into this patch as well. So now we've got our electric piano and the strings. In addition to the library of channel strip presets, there's a large number of patch presets as well. I'm going to add a new patch to the patch list by hitting plus. Then I'm going to click Patch Library in the inspector, choose Instrument, and now I can view all of the patch presets that are available. So let's go ahead and grab this grand piano and pad. When I load this patch preset in, you can see that it actually adds multiple channel strips. One for the grand piano, one for the pad, and then a patch bus, which is actually summing the audio of the two and adding some additional processing in the audio effects. Whenever you've got a patch dialed in how you'd like, you can double click on it and rename it. And then if I wanted to get even more specific, I could go to Attributes, designate the time signature and the tempo. So the next time I load in this patch, maybe I want to bring in some delay. The tempo is going to automatically jump to whatever I determine. Those delays are going to be locked in to the tempo. Another really great thing that you can do in MainStage is adjust the layer range of any channel strip, which you see floating over the on-screen keyboard here. So let's click on this pad and go to the Layer Editor tab. Now I can actually drag this colored bar around manually if I'd like. Place the pad only in the right hand. So I've got it here, but down here is just piano. Or if you know the specific notes, you can use the learn function to designate the exact range where you'd like that pad to be prominent. Bring that delay down a little bit, probably a little bit much. And then again, whenever you're ready to perform, just go to perform mode. You'll see only the workspace on screen, a great representation of where you're at. You can navigate patches with the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can add buttons or use the on-screen buttons in the workspace pre-programmed to move through the patch list. And of course, you could assign these buttons to your physical MIDI hardware of choice. When you've got a concert dialed in how you'd like, just click File and choose Save to save it to your computer. You can save your concert wherever you'd like on your computer. I recommend somewhere it's easy to remember, like the MainStage folder or the music folder. Then just hit save. Now the next time you pull up this concert, all of your patches, your MIDI assignments and mappings, the channel strips are going to be remembered, so you can prepare at home, take your keyboard to church, plug it into the hardware there, and be ready to play. Now you can spend a ton of time dialing in a great workspace and finding sounds that actually work for worship music in the factory presets, or maybe creating them from scratch yourself. But you're also not the only one using MainStage. And at Sunday Sounds, we've created some really helpful, done-for-you resources that can help you find amazing sounds and make MainStage really reliable and easy to use for anyone on your worship team. Our Sunday Keys template is our most popular resource for MainStage Keys players. Sunday Keys comes with a ready-to-use, intuitive visual workspace and a huge library of dialed-in custom worship patches. So even if you're not a sound designer or you don't want to spend hours building a layout from scratch, Sunday Keys is done for you and gives you those results right away for you or anyone on your worship team. We'll put a link in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more about Sunday Keys. Now, this video wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you a couple tips on what to do if things aren't working quite right as you're getting started with MainStage. At Sunday Sounds, we get questions all the time from folks who need a little bit of help getting MainStage dialed in working for them. So I want to share with you the most common problems people run into, so if you run into them, you already know the answer. The first is things just aren't connecting right. Most often it's MIDI hardware, I've got it plugged in, but it's just not working. More often than not, the issue is actually inside of the MIDI keyboard or controller itself. Sometimes you just need to enable MIDI mode inside of the menu on your keyboard. It might be a bad cable or you've got things plugged into the wrong MIDI port. Some brands of keyboard actually require you to download a free MIDI driver on your computer, which enables it to be used and recognized by MainStage as a MIDI device. In general, if you've got MIDI connected but it just doesn't seem to be working for some reason, MainStage has a helpful tool called the MIDI message monitor that can help you get some clarity on where the issue might lie. To access it, click on Window, then choose MIDI Message Monitor. Here, you'll see a real-time display of all incoming MIDI messages that MainStage receives. So if I play notes on my keyboard, I can see those notes coming in. Or if I move a knob or fader on my Nano Control, I can see those control change messages coming in. So a quick rule of thumb, if you've got hardware that you think is connected correctly, but you don't see anything in the MIDI message monitor when you move or interact with those controls, then the issue is not inside of MainStage, but before it. Make sure that you check all the settings on your keyboard, all of your cables are good to go, any drivers you need are downloaded, and then you can start to diagnose other problems. The next issue people run into is asking their computer to do more than it's capable of doing. We call that CPU overload. If you have a huge number of patches or really complex channel strips inside of your MainStage concert, sometimes your computer might not be able to keep up. If you want to get a quick glance at how hard your computer is working to process all of the audio, you can use the CPU load history. You can access that by clicking Window and then choosing CPU load history here. This gives you a per plugin display of how hard MainStage is working in real time. And so as I play notes on the keyboard, you can see the load history goes up. And then when I stop playing, the load history goes back down. And I can see the specific plugins that are using resources in real time as I play. So this is a great way to get clarity on maybe you're just loading in too many instances of a really resource-hungry plugin or something like that. Or just in general, maybe it's not one particular problem, but you're just asking MainStage to do too much on your computer at any given time. Now, if you do have CPU overload problems, one of the simplest things you can do to relieve some of that strain is to go to MainStage Preferences, Audio, and then click Advanced Settings. Here you can adjust your I/O buffer size. Essentially, the larger your buffer size, the more time you're giving MainStage to think or process before it has to output audio. So larger buffer sizes reduce CPU strain. At the same time, it increases the amount of latency or delay between when you play a note and when you hear the resulting audio output. For most users, a buffer size of 128 or 256 is a good place to start that balances resource usage and playability. But if you're running into issues with CPU overload, sometimes increasing your buffer size to 256 or 512 can drastically improve performance. At the same time, you want to make sure that you don't have too many patches open in your concert. If you only need 5 for a given performance, go ahead and export all of the other patches that you might not need. You really don't want to have 20, 30, or 40 patches in your concert when you're going to be performing live. The reason is that MainStage is designed to let you move between all the patches in your concert freely at any moment. So the more patches you have loaded, the harder MainStage is working to be prepared and ready for you to select any patch. So while we have preferences open, there's one more setting that causes issues for a lot of new MainStage users. Inside of General Preferences, it's the auto-saving feature. Auto-saving might sound like a good idea, and typically when you first download MainStage, autosave is going to be set to every 5 minutes. That means while you're in edit mode or layout mode, MainStage is automatically going to save your concert every 5 minutes. But this can cause problems if you're doing resource-intensive things or programming while MainStage starts to autosave. So we found that this can cause crashes for people, unexpected errors, or sometimes saving changes that you wish wouldn't actually have been saved. So we strongly recommend setting autosave to never, and then just getting in a habit of regularly saving your work manually by clicking File and then choosing Save from the menu here. With just the content we've talked about in this video, I'm confident that you're going to be able to plug your gear in, get it connected to your computer, and start playing music. So don't feel like you have to become a pro-level MainStage user before you can introduce it at a rehearsal or a band practice. Go ahead and give it a try. Explore for yourself, just like I did when I was getting started, and see what's possible. And if you need help or you'd like some more content like this, we'll put a link in the description to our free MainStage course that walks you through all you need to get connected at a deeper level with some more step-by-step instructions. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like, and leave a comment if you have some questions that you can't find the answer to anywhere else. We'd be glad to help. Thanks for watching. I hope you have fun getting started with MainStage. Have a great day.